Hello and welcome. My name is Olga Chwa, and we're here tonight for a bit of Astroyoga, movement, and mindfulness with seasonal and celestial themes. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe to support this channel. And maybe barely moving, maybe moving just a little bit to begin these movements with the feet and the toes as we begin to warm up the joints in our fashion as we've done for many weeks, many months, getting the toes moving and going, little forward and back movements. Adding the ankles into the movement, you might continue with the toes and the ankles. So we've got our Pisces, our Aquarius there, inspiring our movements. We're going to stay with the feet for a little bit today as we have in the past. And I'll bring those a little closer to you as well so that we can really see what's going on here with the foot that bends at the toes and opens. And then when we add the ankle, it's like the toes are bent and the ankle is open and the toes are open and the ankle is lifting. And so there's this double movement of pointing and curling in one direction, and then that can be reversed so that's what went down, that can come up, and then the other way can go down. Lifted toes come up and pointing or curled toes go down. So a couple different directions, getting the toes moving in one direction and the other to really wake up and enliven the feet if you so choose. And you might be doing it at your maximum. Oh, this is the whole trajectory. You might be doing something smaller, something that's more subtle, feeling into what you need there. And spreading the toes, letting the toes spread out and retract and letting the little toe be the guide as you bring that little guy in and little guy out. And this is part of the ankle movement. This is inversion and eversion. So we're spreading the toes and encouraging the little toe to be the leader of the pack on the way in and on the way out. So you're moving your ankle and the whole sole of the foot is pointing in and pointing out. And then we can put all these movements together to roll and circulate and rotate around with the ankles. So letting those movements go around in one direction, clockwise, in the opposite direction, counterclockwise. You've got a couple moments there, one direction and the other. And again, see what the toes are doing. They might be just along for the ride. That might feel great. You might want to do something that engages them. You might do something that demands something of them. So we've got circles and then figure eights or infinities or some combination of both. So either that horizontal 8 or that vertical 8. In one direction and the opposite direction. And we're in this time of experimentation, innovation. So how can you make this new? How can you make this different? What can you do to spark something innovative as you complete? Maybe you've been practicing both feet together, maybe one at a time. So as you complete one side, take a moment to compare and go to the other. Maybe you've been practicing both and you're giving them a little rest. Feeling through what you need there through the feet. We did the toes and the ankles with the flexions and the extensions. We did the little toes as the leaders with the inversion and the eversion, and that all became rotations in multiple directions, and then subtle loop-de-doops with the infinities or figure eights, and also in those go in two directions. And after that, the body gets a little rest. After that, you take a little breather, a little moment to recuperate, and then notice. And we'll take a moment with the knees. We're astrologically out of Capricorn. We've got just a few things lingering in there, but far away and not too relevant. So take a moment to open and close the knee a few times, saying hello to your knee joints on the left, on the right. If you do them separately, that's more of a joint focus. That helps you get into the bones of it. And if you're ambitious and want to do them together, that's going to be core strengthening. That's going to demand all sorts of power. So if you're lying down or if you're sitting up, both together is going to be more work for the muscles. So those are some choices as you make this your own. So after the up and down, we'll get to a side to side. That might be tricky. Gosh, well, possible, trickier. One at a time might be easier to do that. Your horizontal movement. So put those points together and rotate around. Get the knee warmed up in one direction and the opposite direction. And the knee obviously is between the hips and the ankles. So when there's any sort of stuff going on with the leg, the knee takes it. It's sort of even a filtering point for the return of the blood from the feet. As the blood goes down there and nourishes the feet, it needs to come back and drop off the trash. So as you get into the knee, left, right, side to side, and then circles, slowing it down to feel everything, trying to notice where in this rotation does it feel fine, where is it a little tug, where is it a stretch. Let that be your movement with the knee. We'll take a couple moments with the hips. If you're on the floor, if you're on your back and it feels good to be on your back, a figure 4 would be a lovely thing to do. That's placing that ankle on the opposite thigh and then scooping that unit up to give a stretch here towards the glute section, gluteus maximus and medius. Take some of that, and this hanging leg, the lower leg, gets to make some decisions where it suits you, where it feels good. And that's got the option also to be rolled on over to get in here with that stretch. So that's the floor option. Figure 4, one side, take it for as many breaths as you need. And then on the other side, if you happen to be joining us from a seated option, we've got the figure 4 alternative. Similar setup, ankle by the knee, but this time rather than lifting the legs, you lengthen the spine, and from that tall spine, keeping that back extended, especially through the low back, lifting out of the pelvis. In the chair version, the body approaches the legs. So similar effects, the same group of muscles are addressed in this movement. As you do your figure 4s, one side, the other, you might do 2 rounds or even 3 on each side, including that up and down option. And if you're on the floor, you might also include this rotation in which the setup begins with the leg staying, the foot that starts on the floor, stays on the floor, and it rolls to the little toe side, bringing the foot and knee towards the floor. We'll just hang out with the hips for a little while. And as these figure 4s satisfy and give you those stretches, see what other kind of movements you might be needing to do. And those might be dynamic movements. You might need something like a air bicycle. And that might be one leg at a time, where you use all those joints, the hip, the knee, the ankle. It might be both legs together. Again, more core strengthening in that option. And the chair has that same option. As big or as small as that bicycle needs to be, as much support. Oh, look at that bright light as needed. So moving through the legs. And taking another few moments with the hips, seeing what else they might need. Sometimes they like a great big hug. And we'll move into the arms and the upper limbs in just a moment. So you take a moment to notice your feet, your ankles, your knees, and how the hips are doing. And if it's possible to come to a seated position, I invite you to do so that you've got lots of places to point and reach the arms, but you can also stay lying down. We're going to start with the little things, so you won't need the upper body quite yet if you prefer to be lying down. But if it's possible to come to a seated position where you've got the room in front and behind you, let's get those arms in the picture. And see if you can do some of these practices that you've done 100 times, creating the fists in different ways. What does it feel like to do them in different reaches? What does it feel like to reach up above your head or maybe out to the sides? Let's innovate here and experiment. Does that feel helpful? Does that feel like too much work? And then we've got another one is the orientation. I'm always doing them with the palms downward, but I'm doing with the palms facing upward. And in all those different places, out and up and facing one way, facing the other way. That's right. Folded, facing inward, facing outward. All kinds of ways to get in there. So let's play with this one, see where they can go. Tiny fists and great big hands. We're playing with the contrast as well. Itty bitty and large and spread out, the space. And then the contraction and the expansion. And then see if you can just get the knuckles, just the fingers fold. And again, they might be down, they might be up. I feel like it's a little nuanced, right? The muscles move a little differently depending on which way the hands are facing. So just the knuckles fold, but you're trying that with different orientations of the palms. And then I feel like I always need to play the great big piano, the giant great big piano, maybe organ even, two-story. That's right. Wiggle all those fingers, see if they need any attention one to each other. That's a great idea, to let your hand, opposite hand, give each finger a hug. Isn't that what it is? It's a little hug. Give them that attention, wiggle them out. And then we can move the hands and the wrists up and down. And we're honoring our moon in Gemini here with these arm movements. The Gemini rules the arms and the upper chest there. Forward and back with the wrists and then circles. One direction and the other direction. Around and around. More complicated shapes, if you're up for it, infinity symbols, loops, or folly. And now we're bending the elbows, straight arms and bent arms. And this is another opportunity to reach in all these different ways, forward, out to the sides and back to the shoulders, up overhead. Where does it feel good? See if you've got the space behind you, even reaching behind. You've got all these different spaces. So let's do this for the next 5 or 6 breaths, maybe even 10 to 15 breaths. And you're reaching and coming back and reaching and coming back. And the elbows are going to rotate next. So when you're ready for next, you let them be in a right angle. And that might be facing up. They might be facing forward. They might be facing down. No prescription there. But they are making circles. And it starts at the right angle, but you know that they close and you know that they open. And then they reach somewhere out and about. So it might be like stirring a pot. It might be like moving the blades of a fan, see what feels good. Circles, and now change the direction, going the opposite direction. The other way, and then around and around to something more complex, infinity symbols. We all look like conductors now. Letting the elbows bend, so the arms open and close in this movement. They lengthen and then they hands approach the shoulders and then move away, and they switch up again, other direction, changing that direction once again. And then we got to take a few breaths of rest. Then you got to take a moment to say, wow, no equipment, so much work. Thank you, body. All right. We'll move in bigger with the shoulders, but let's start small with some circles there. Lift your shoulders up and take them back and shrug them down and bring them up. Elevation and depression there. And then see if you can change that direction. If you're going in a little circle, if you were going forward, go backward. If you were going backward, start going forward, the other direction. That's right. And when you're ready, let's add the fingers to the shoulders to move the whole arm, elbows lifting and lowering. You've got the whole circle. Round and around in one direction. You can switch it up and go the other way. Around and around. And then we do number 8. The elbows are laser pointers. Drawing figure 8s. Give yourself a rest as you need to. And then the other direction. We're going to stay with those shoulders for just a little bit. So don't tire them out, and give them a rest as you need to. As you finish those bigger movements, maybe some more smaller ones. And then you're going to be taking an arm across the top of the chest, and that might be just your jam. You might just like to scoop that opposite elbow in and bring that arm in. That might feel like plenty of a stretch, plenty good, right? Or even inward a little bit across the top of the chest. And some of you might have that twist hygiene that lets you put the elbow inside the elbow. See how that feels. And so what you're doing to get there is you're opening the back. So it's like you're putting on a backpack and you're opening the shoulder blades. You're letting them come far apart for this one to get those hands together. You're encouraging the back to round a little bit. And then if you can get there, then if you can straighten out from there, then you'll find a nice response there. If you got to round it out to get them, and then lengthen up tall and straight from there. That's right. Stretching out, and then if you can, you're going to reach behind, and if you're able to, however, wherever you can reach, maybe your hands just touch each other somewhere down low, but bringing your hands together. Challenge number 1 is to bring the heels of the hands together back there. So that's your first challenge. That's going to require like some flexibility. So you might not manage it, but you feel the direction, and that's the opposite. Now you're opening the front. You're leaning back to do that. You're breathing into the top of the chest to make that space back there so the heels can, but don't force it, and then let them be soft. Let that hand to hand be a basket back there, and then keep it as you shift it to the side, one side, the other side. That might be all that you can let your body do, and you might also bring the elbows towards each other. That'd be the next thing, the next place to engage your elbows towards each other. A little extra, and then make nice. That's intense. We're going to get into those parts of you that hold the tension, that carry the weight of the world. Let's spend a moment with the neck. So as you finish up with the shoulders, give them some little organic dances. What else do they need? Oh my gosh, take a breath. Can you feel that different breath after all that shoulder work? Did that shoulder open up the tops of the lungs there? Nice. Let a slow motion, yes, be the practice for the neck. Slow motion, looking up, looking down, letting just those muscles there and the bones of the neck be your movement. Lift and lower, up and down. From your upright position, letting the head move side to side, and a few times just keeping that in that plane, and that, what are we moving here, in the frontal plane? And you might want to start getting creative in here too. The ears to the shoulder, but you let your eyes look all around. Oh, what's over here? What's over there? Those little movements help ease into some of these tight spots, and you're listening to your body. You're following where that signal takes you. Which parts feel available? Which parts feel like they could use that tug? Might even include the shoulder in that as the head moves side to side, a little wiggle, little exploration there. It feels so good, and it feels great to watch folks feeling good. So getting into it there. And we'll keep that spirit of things, that softness, that exploration as you start the third movement for the neck, which is our slow motion no, our rotation. Turning to look over and behind one shoulder and the other. And in this practice here, as you turn, same thing, you might get to where you stop or almost, and here again, a little yes, or a little, oh, I don't know. Whatever the other movements are that are delicious would be the key here. Seeing how the shoulders play into that. And giving yourself another 5-10 breaths with these neck movements, and then we'll do the whole neck. As you finish up these individual movements, coming into this combination movement of the circle or the spiral. Soft chin and jaw. Heavy tongue. All around, looking around. Changing direction if you haven't. And taking another moment with your neck, and we're going to keep on moving these amazing human bodies. As you finish up through the neck, let's get up to standing position. We're going to do all the things for all the joints and all the whole body. Let's see if this is helpful. A little more light maybe. But since we've got our feet in focus, and as you're coming to standing, it might take you a moment to feel like you've gotten there. So if you need to walk around, feel free. This is a great opportunity to. And doing what you were doing a little bit earlier with the toes. So curling your toes and stepping back down. So we'll do some walking in place, or you might be taking little steps, but you're adding this curling of the toe, lifting the knees. And that's core strengthening right there. This lifting of the knees engages all your psoas muscles and the iliacus. So that's deep towards the spine, that allowing this happen. And as you find that balance, those feet get comfortable, coming into a stillness, a standing position that lets you stack the body, stack the hips over the knees and the shoulders over the hips. As you bring the hands together, lift up and reach up and lengthen up onto your toes, reaching through the whole body, lifting upward, and returning heels to the ground. So if that feels good, do that a few times as you reach the whole body. We've got our shoulders opening up. This is actually a flexion in the shoulder, an extension in the spine. But when you think about this part of the body, you're lifting and opening there, engaging there, and engaging through the feet. So this is the movement for the moment, the signature in our astrology at the moment, feet and shoulders, Pisces and Gemini. It's great balance, up and down. And stepping wider to continue with side bending. And you might have the hands behind to start with, right off the bat, so that you're opening the front of your body this way, right? When the hands go to the back, inevitably the front is stretched a little more open. And that helps keep the body more upright, maybe even leaning back if it feels good. That's generally safe to do backward bend and side bend. That strengthens the spine and gives you some access to the hips there that are often folded in our daily lives. And you might want to include the arms in your side bend if your elbows and your shoulders love that. Some people really feel that access into the rotator cuff, into teres there, into the triceps. So if this side bends our way that you get into your arms, then go for that. And let's stay with this side bending notion. You might also do this sort of surfer, leaning to the side, kind of stretch. Oh yeah, I'm going to get that thing off the shelf without turning towards it. And you might even have a deeper practice and let your feet be comfortable to that means. So if you're just doing the parallel stuff, the stuff that's sort of symmetrical, you can keep your feet symmetrical and parallel, but some of you might want to go into a shape there, a triangle, a deeper side bend, and then you can let your feet just be comfortable. Again, this is the thing about these practices. It's about feeling steady and about feeling like you're opening and accessing parts of you, making that space in your body to that universe of your inner landscape. So we'll spend a little moment with the sides before we come into the standing rotation, the upright twist. Check how wide apart. I got a little splayed out there, so I'm bringing toes and heels in a little closer, and you're keeping a little wide so that you've got that stance to lengthen and then twist and look behind, to the right, to the left. The arms might come one to the opposite shoulder, the other behind, but that also, they might just hang out on the sides and do their passive thing. And they might reach out and wrap around the body. So innovate, experiment, and let these movements be your guides. As you do your standing twist and arriving back into stillness little by little, keep your open wide position for our backward and forward bends. Hands either out to the sides or supporting the low back. You feel into what you need. To open again the front of the body and then lean forward. And that might be something little. You know what you need today, how deeply you're going. A little back, a little forward. Maybe deeper forward if you're reaching towards your toes, towards your feet. You stay in the middle. For the first 2 or 3 repetitions, we're staying in the midline, in the center. And after a few breaths, you bring both hands to the same foot. So you got a little bit of a diagonal that often helps access some of this back, hip, knee, or thigh situation. And you might see what feels helpful with how extended or flexed the knees are, how much you're leaning over the weight over that foot or away from it. So a couple of things to experiment with. What you do on one side, you'll do on the other, both hands at the same foot, at the same side. And again, that might be hanging out, that might be exploring, experimenting, innovating. And what is actually available, what is accessible. Take your time with these upward and downward movements, especially if you've been down for a moment. Move slowly, take a breath. Welcome those deeper breaths. We're going to spend another few minutes here. Backward if your body feels like it's been crunched forward. Forward if you need to stretch out the back of the body. With this additional diagonal, it might be slow, it might be a little faster. And then we're going to keep on moving for a few more minutes. Keeping that wide position if that's available to you. And if you need to switch, if you need to wiggle that out or give that a shake, a shimmy, you do that. You take care of your body. And when you're ready, you're switching there, a little pivot on the heels so that you're facing the short side. And we've been doing some variations of this, and we've gotten here this far, is that if you face the short side, so to speak, because if you're going to be running or skiing, right, we've got that option. Bringing both hands up, sticking the thumbs out and keeping your eyes on the one thumb, the thumb that moves. So to begin with, the whole body, the whole upper body spins around and opens and moves. So the shoulders, the hips are all part of this, the neck, and then they come back to close. So you're going 180 at least, and maybe even beyond 180 degrees if you're available for that in the shoulders. So at least 2 or 3 times there. And the next time you keep those thumbs right where they are, and the one pulls back. You're going to watch the one that doesn't move, or even beyond it, like you're shooting a bow and arrow. So doing at least 3 of these, and I often don't shoot, don't I? I often get into it. I do the movement because it feels good. If you want to shoot your imaginary arrow, you might do that. And don't force it. And whatever you do on one side, spin around onto the heels. On the other side, those thumbs sticking out, and you've got this book position. I think of it as opening the great big book. Your whole heart is open. But part of it is to notice all the moving parts, is that you've got the arm, the head, the chest, the hips, and they close again, so that when you do the next one, you get to really choose. Is it just the arm that's moving? Are you including the hips in that like you were before? Right? You've got more nuance, more vocabulary, hopefully with access to these individual aspects of the body. And then you're giving it a little break, a little rest, a little wiggle, a jiggle. And let's do a balance. We've got a few more minutes before we wind things up. So let's get a moment for the ultimate space pose, which is defeating gravity, peeling our bodies off of this planet 1 foot at a time. So we've got a couple of steps. The first step is just to bring that foot up and find that balance. And you might need something to support you there. You might need something to hang on to. Well, that's the first line of business when training balance. Eyes are focused in a single point. That leg goes up. It might be a few seconds, maybe a few more seconds. I'm trying to make it longer and longer, extending it with the breath. Scoop. And scoop. The second stage would be swinging that out, giving that an external rotation. And that's a little trickier. It can be tricky. It can be as simple as bringing out a little bit, but you're going for a position where it is on the side, right? I think the video is the best place to see that, where you can see the leg and then it kind of disappears in the line of the body. So going for outward, that's right. And so that it might be easier to bring the foot in. That often helps that hip open out. And then as that becomes more flexible, bringing that out. And the arms are there for balance. So often hanging them out is helpful. And then we've got these funny shapes you can make with them, again, to make it more complicated. But starting simple, starting in a place that feels sustained, that feels supported. Whoop. And as one side finishes, the other side is engaged. Challenging yourself to hold it a few more counts, a few more breaths. And a final round, making it the best one, the strongest one. You've got that focus of being grounded, of anchoring into the earth. Slow it down, and the eyes are focused in one steady point. And everything in the mind and the body saying, I've got this, I've got this, I've got this. I'm steady, I'm stable. All right. And then the other side, same thing, that focus, that grounding. And it's like the body lifts up. It's like you're hooked into some invisible force up above you at the same time as you're grounded down and up at the same time. Eyes are focused on something that's not moving. Awesome. Letting that go, letting that be an accomplishment. Let's get comfortable getting your body back to gravity, back to the The floor that receives the body so willingly, right? How easy is this part? Defying gravity is a lot of work. Lifting those legs up off the floor requires, yep, countering gravity. And so now coming back into gravity, welcoming the rest, welcoming the surrender. Taking this moment to say some really nice things to yourself. Tell yourself that you did some challenging things, you did some familiar things, and you're feeling what it feels like to be alive here on Earth today, on this day. Thanks for joining this session. Notice how you feel in your whole body now, and take a moment to be aware of all the benefits. Remember, you are always welcome to come back. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. Maybe hit the notification button to get the latest videos and like all the videos that you watch. If you enjoy these practices, consider making a donation. There's a PayPal link in the description and other methods on my website at olgachwa.com/sponsor. While you're on my website, please add your email to my list to get the updates of my new YouTube uploads and live Zoom classes and special workshops. All the things that don't even make it to the channel. It'd be great to see you. All gratitude. I'm Olga Chwa.